y'all don't be deceived, because there are black people, African Americans, Africans, whatever, that are trying to keep people in or utter darkness concerning the history of the black Jews. Now, there are other Jews from other countries. I'm talking about the black Jews because, first off, I know my history now. Second off, a lot of these people that descend from the Jews are here in America, excuse me, and scattered into other countries around the world. They don't know their history. They don't know where they come from. All they know is that they were slaves at some point. So, there's an agenda, I think, through the military and just through servants of Satan to keep people blind. A lot of these people do not care about the whole of these black Jews. They just want some money, they want some power. A lot of them think that greatness comes from being like Egypt or something, where you had all these slaves and everyone came and bowed before you. But you have to understand, though Egypt was ruled by black people, these were Cushites, Hamites, whatever, they weren't doing anything different than what you see the so-called white men doing in America and in Europe. They had the same attitudes because they worship the same gods. I mean, if you worship anything other than the Most High, it's going to reflect in your whole being. And so, because the Father is life, and those fallen angels chose death, death is going to reflect in your being. And what you're going to do is you're going to kill, steal, rape, pillage, whatever the deal is. This is what these Egyptians were doing. It doesn't matter if they were a world power at some point. They are the very same character that you hate, except they're black. So, a lot of people are trying to get people to join Pan-Africanism because they think somehow that if all black people unite, there's going to be peace in the world. That's not the case. There is no peace without the Father in heaven, period, point blank. There is no peace without his Son, who is his word that came in the flesh to die on the cross for our sins so that we can be atoned for and be right with the Father again. There is none other. Everything else, all these gods that you hear of in Egypt and you hear of in West Africa, Oshun, that you hear of in Greece, Aphrodite, that you hear of in Babylonia, Ishtar, all these gods are the same. They are the same fallen angels, different names that manifest themselves in literally the same ways. Now, let me talk about these people's gods, like Ra, which means evil in Hebrew. You know, this god was destroyed in Egypt, or at least revealed in Egypt, as not being the actual sun god. You know, then you got Oshun, who has Olamir, which is, I guess, their creator. It might be the same as Yah, I don't know. Created these angels, like Oshun, and he said, oh, these angels are falling, just like it says in the Bible. And guess what? They fell. And she tried to go all the way back up to heaven, but couldn't reach him because the people needed rain. Why? Because the angels were supposed to have dominion over the humans. So all their reaches were like, you're not going to get back to God. Like, you're sit there and be pretty type deal. But she tried anyway. And she ended up making it, but then her feathers were burned off. And she became a vulture. So these are the gods that they're worshiping. These gods that literally have to go through the Creator to get anything. Okay, so don't throw dirt on the Most High. Don't throw dirt on the Creator. They want you to join with them to say peace, peace, where there is no peace, and all of a sudden destruction comes. Don't do it. You know, a lot of these people on YouTube that have all these followers and that kind of thing, they have made a deal with Satan, I've said it before, to keep black people in the dark. They might give you a little bit of truth here and there, but it's always followed with a lie. Like this one guy, his channel's name is Black to Africa, ex-military guy. I mean, I can't say whether or not he's an agent, but I know in the beginning of his video, there's a huge, not huge, but a black hole sun. And a black hole sun always reminds me of some kind of Egyptian symbology. So I think the guy is comedic. He was talking about, oh, you know, you need to look inside yourself for the Most High. And they'll always say that. I tried looking inside of myself. I didn't find anything. Why? Because it was not in me. I had to be refined by the Spirit and by the Word to have a greater portion of the Father's Spirit in me, so then I would have the truth. The unfortunate thing is these people are learning by their carnal minds and not by actual experience. They're searching, sure they are, a lot of them, but in my search, I had to come to the knowledge of the truth that the dark realm was legit, and therefore God is legit. And you know, a lot of these people don't have that experience. They're just building up all this knowledge, and they think knowledge is power. And it is to some kind of extent, but it's not spirit, and it's not going to heal you all the time. So this guy, you know, he has a video, and he's talking about the Limba tribe. He did an interview with the Limba tribe, which they are descendants of Levi, I believe. And, you know, they have the Cohen gene and all that, which is a gene that they tie the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic Jews to, even though Ashkenaz most of the time has none of it, nothing at all. But, you know, white people want to be under other white people a lot of times, and so they praise these Ashkenazi Jews because they're white, even though they're from Poland and Germany and Russia and Iran and that kind of thing. Whatever. Some of them are legit worshiping the Father, some of them are not. A lot of them aren't. Those who aren't, that's who Kanye was talking about, who run these banks and that kind of thing. So, I'm going to keep talking because the devil tried to call me a rat yesterday, so I'm going to keep ratting on him because he's a liar. He's mad because his kingdom is about to fall. So, I got attacked all day yesterday by this dude at work who he would not let up. He was definitely had a strong demonic spirit. I would say even possessed by the devil, but he was trying to insinuate that I was a rat, even though I hadn't told on nobody. And so I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, oh, I keep exposing these things, so that's what it is. That's my job. Whatever the Father tells you in the dark, you expose in the light. I don't worship under you, Satan, so I'm going to keep telling what the Father has told me to say. You're not my God. Moving forward. So he interviewed the Limba tribe, a group of these Limba people, and, they were talking about how Christ was forced upon their people, or how Christianity is different because they worship Christ, and how they are still waiting on their Messiah. So, it's a form of the truth. These Jews are black. They're black Jews. They're in Africa. They descend from the tribes, but they deny the Christ. One of the comments said, oh, well, he was talking about the Jews denied Christ. And I'm like, no, there's 12 disciples that descend from the tribes of Israel. So not all Jews denied Christ. Peter was of the tribe of Judah. So the Messiah was a Yehudite as well. And there were, maybe Judas, he might have been from Judah as well. I don't know. But there were several tribes mixed in. Paul was a Benjamite, which would have been of the southern kingdom. So they would have been included with the Jews, just like the Levites. So yeah, half-truths sometimes. I'm not going to hold it against them. They don't know any different. But you have to watch out for these kinds of things because they're going to try to get you to deny the Christ. A week or so prior to that, he posted a group of these people in Africa, Nigeria maybe. He called them Christians. They're not even Christians. They're Catholics. So he didn't understand that, which I'm not going to hold it against them. But the reason why these guys are Catholics, they got on that hat that the Pope wears that literally comes from the Philistine god Dagon. And they're burning books and burning idols. They're burning the Bible, talking about this is the white man's religion. Okay, the Bible was in Ethiopia well before it was anywhere else, like the whole written Bible was. So Ethiopians are black. Are you putting it together now? So to try to sit here and say that the white man came and brought this to you is a lie. It was already there because God put his people in Africa before he put them anywhere else. Shem was given the land of Afra and Afarag, according to the book of Jubilees, I believe it is, which represents Africa. So Shemites were in Africa. Hamites were also in Africa. That's all these people, the Egyptians and the Somalians and people that worship Oshun. That's all like Hamitic stuff. People that worship Osiris, that's all Hamitic stuff. So these people are trying to blame white people, even though they're walking in Catholic garb, which belongs straight up to the Romans. You didn't even go the route of worshiping God in spirit and truth because you took on a whole nother religion, which Catholicism is witchcraft. That's why you're not seeing anything happen in your life. That's why a lot of these Catholic priests who want you to call them father, even though the Son said don't call anyone your father, there's only one father and that's him who is in heaven, have an issue, with having attraction toward little boys because they're not worshiping in spirit and in truth. So what these African Christians, who are not Christians, they're Catholic, they took on a false belief, worshiping all these saints and all these idols, as Catholics do, and they take the whole baby and throw it out with the bathwater. It's just another deception. It's literally another deception. You did not do what the word said, because if you did, you wouldn't have put on that stupid Pope hat in the first place. So this is what happens when you don't have understanding and you just keep trying to gain knowledge and there's no spirit. So sitting there trying to look inside yourself, not going to work because you don't have enough knowledge in the spirit of God to do anything. Then there's some guy, Go Black to America, that's basically throwing dirt on the guy Go Black to Africa because he's like, black people, you're American, you were born here and all this kind of stuff. Okay, the Father talks about how he's going to pluck his people out of all these places and bring them into a land. So no, we don't come from here. We come from Africa, which even the Middle East was considered Africa not too long ago. Those people in the Middle East would be considered African 200 years ago. So, throwing dirt on this guy talking about, you have everything you need in America. If we have everything we need in America, why would we be looking to go to Africa? Makes no sense. He comments, even though I say absolutely nothing about the Jews that came from Spain, he comments talking about, oh, they were Russians, they were Germans, they were Polish. No, they weren't. They were the sons of David. They were called Yaya Negroes, and his crew was there. And my DNA comes from there. And when I did it, it gave me a big picture of the Hebrews, even though it painted them white, but it put them under the E1B1A haplotype, which only goes to Africa. It does not come from anywhere else. So the guy obviously is using divination to try to gauge my thoughts, because I said nothing about anything like that. And here he is talking about it, trying to throw me off the path, and everyone else. These people are deceivers. They are put into place to keep you ignorant. And these are African Americans, okay? They're getting kickbacks from doing these kinds of things. So to sit here and come under the belief that all these African Americans or Africans and we should just get together and just, we'll be one big happy family is not going to happen. There's a reason why the Father separated different people into nations, and even why the Father scattered his own people into other nations, because the thoughts, the beliefs, the actions that they were doing were not of him. This is why these people got scattered into slavery, you know, and a lot of them want to talk about, oh, the white man did this, the white man did that. Well, the Father said that he was going to send these other nations against you if you did not obey. That's what he said. That's literally what he said. So here you have these other nations that come into the land of Judah, which 115 towns of Judah in West Africa, and they show it right there in the Woman King, the Oyos and the Dahomis selling these Yehudites into slavery. I don't know what they were doing at the time, but that's possibly why they got scattered. It could have also been a thing with Joseph where his brothers sold him into slavery, because some people think that the Dahomey come from the tribe of Dan. The king did have a serpent, which it talks about how Dan will be a serpent, by the way. I don't know for sure. I know that those 115 towns of Judah were there, though, and they called it Wedah, and these people were sent into slavery, and you see them enslaved. But anyway, yeah, so the people don't know the history, or they know the history, and they're purposely trying to feed you false history because they don't want you to awaken to anything. People want that power. They want to use these fallen angels, the same people or angels as their so-called oppressors use to oppress you, to have power. That's what it's all about, and they think they're going to get it through materialism and money and everyone else worshiping them, and that's not the truth. Like, you're using the same energy as them. The Father is completely different. He said, I'll scatter your enemies if you worship me. He did send David into war grounds to go against wicked tribes. So people that try to speak completely against war or try to speak completely against slavery, they're obviously not understanding the mind of God. I'm not saying that slavery is a good thing all the time, but God did allow at least indentured servitude, which was his idea for slavery, to pay back debts and that kind of thing. It wasn't what the Egyptians did and what these people from West Africa, the Ghanaians and the Dahomey who sold us into slavery did. They were beating and raping and pillaging, you know, and these fake Jews who also did it, and these white people that also did it. They were beating, raping, and pillaging. That wasn't the Father's idea of slavery. His was like, you need to pay back your debts, okay? Work for these people, and after 7 years, your debts will be forgiven and you'll be free. But they had the opportunity to go home. They had the opportunity to have kids, you know? To me, it's not much different than going to work every day. So, a little different. But also, I was talking about war. You know, the Father sent his people into war against these wicked nations that were doing things like killing and pillaging and stealing, you know? So they fought in his name to humble these people. So it's not like what they're doing today, where they're fighting for money, or they're fighting to subdue peaceful nations, or to colonize because they want to feel better, they want the resources there. It's absolutely not the same. So people need to learn a bit about who the Father is instead of making assumptions, you know, because the more assumptions that you make, the more you're going to dig yourself into a pit. This young man got on YouTube and was like, you don't know who you are. And I'm looking at his name. His name says Joseph Solomon. I'm like, those are two Hebrew names. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, my people come from Ghana. They come from Cush. That existed way before your people. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, Cush comes from Ham. Ham was the brother of Shem. Shem was the brother of Japheth. No, your people come from the Hamitic kingdom. And Noah was before that. And Adam and Eve were before that. God was before that. Oh, you just don't want to be African. No, we are African, but we're also Hebrews, all right? Again, Shem was given the land of Apharad. That is Africa. So, at least part of it, Ham was given some of the land as well. So, it's not that people don't want to be Africans, it's that we don't want to worship your God, or gods rather. And the more we start to learn about our heritage, the more we realize, oh, we're different. Like I said, I have the E1B1A from Spain, which is a Sephardic Jews, and that only goes back to Africa. I'm African and I'm a Hebrew. You can be both. It's not impossible. So, they don't know no kind of history, and they just want some power, and that's what it is. Don't listen to them. We're not supposed to join with the Hamitic tribes. They're supposed to join with us in worshiping the Father in spirit and in truth. Don't be deceived. You likely do not descend from them. So you guys be blessed and have a good one. Bye.